This program is a collaboration of personal opinions and individual free thought. It does not represent the views or narrative of the mainstream corporate media hacks. Viewer discretion is advised.
And here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is time for the live edition of the Break the Bell podcast. As you can see, I am without Bill. Bill bailed on me once again because Bill sucks and he's apparently... Let me turn the lights up. It's really dark in here without Bill. He's apparently celebrating this American festive holiday, this 4th of July. So he's not with us. He's kind of being a little bitch once again. Bill has bailed more, I think, in the last month on this show than he has in the entire rest of the 3 years that we've been running the show. So I don't know what that's all about, but he's on the verge of getting fired, which I don't think anybody would be too upset about if we fired him. So Bill, I think it's like 3 strikes you're out policy here at the Break the Bell podcast, so you might want to get your ass back here. How's everybody doing out there? I mean, this is going to be probably a short one because I don't have Bill, like I said, to throw ideas off of. I don't have Bill to interrupt me when I'm trying to make a point. I don't have Bill to get us way off track and off topic, which is all the things that Bill does. And he does a great job of it. So if you miss Bill, let me know that you miss Bill out there. And if you're listening, you're probably going to be fired. Right now it is July 3rd, one day before the 4th of July, obviously. So this is like 4th of July Eve special, I guess. I wouldn't even call it a special. It's going to be short and sweet, probably. I say that a lot, but usually I end up going way over my time. But I just wanted to kind of reflect on this holiday, the 4th of July, Independence Day, whatever it is we call it here in your neck of the woods. By the time this is released, it will be the 5th of July, so it'll kind of be a rerun for y'all, but still, it's hopefully good info. It's just stuff I've looked into, stuff I've been thinking about regarding the 4th of July and like kind of where we're at as a country, 200 some freaking years since the Declaration of Independence, since the American Revolution, the war for independence, are breaking free from the tyranny that was the British government or the British rule. So who's in the comments? Derek Ambrose is here. He says, I'll interrupt you as much as I can. Hashtag fire Bill. Let's get hashtag fire Bill as a trending hashtag out there, because if I get enough of them, maybe, just maybe, we'll fire Bill. And he's not here to defend himself, so I can talk as much shit as I want. But as I was saying, I'm going to be kind of reflecting on Independence Day, like what started all that, I guess. I mean, we all have our generic story, our like 7th grade U.S. history story. Did y'all take the Constitution like course? Have a big Constitution test in like 8th grade where you're like, for me, school has gotten so like pussified. I mean, this is total side tangent. For me, the Constitution test, like we had to basically memorize. It seemed like we had to memorize the Constitution. It was like several week course from my memory, but I remember it was like basically college level lecture for an 8th grader because I had to bring one of the you remember those old school cassette recorders, not the little handheld recorders we carry around now. It was like the cassette, big ass, like freaking 8-inch cassette recorder that, and we had to bring those in and record this freaking lecture so we could go home every single night and take notes on what this 8th grade teacher who thought he was a college professor had to say regarding the Constitution. Needless to say, I still remember quite a bit about it because of all the freaking all the effort, all the studying I had to put in to pass that. Because if you didn't pass the U.S. Constitution test, you didn't graduate 8th grade. Like, it wasn't like, hey, if you fail this and pass everything else, you can skate by. If you didn't pass it, I'm pretty sure you didn't pass 8th grade. And things are not like that anymore. Thanks to like the No Child Left Behind Act and shit like that, and the pussification of the school system. But I don't know how I got on that tangent, but I am going to talk a little bit about like the basic knowledge we have of the Revolutionary War and what led to Independence Day, and then just kind of dig into that just a little bit. I want to talk about taxation because that seems to be a big issue amongst libertarians, like the whole taxation is theft mantra that they say. And I'm sure everybody knows this by now. I would hope that you at least took school long enough ago to realize that the Revolutionary War had a lot to do with taxes and a lot to do with taxation without representation. So I want to dig into that a little bit too. Before I do, obviously, I got to say, check us out all over social media. This is where we are. We're on social media. That's how information gets out there these days. You can find us at our handle, which is Break the Bell Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I don't do hardly anything on Instagram anymore because I hate Instagram, and I saw every time I get on Instagram, I would scroll through, and all I would see was like underage girls throughout everything. Underage girls and basically not wearing very much clothing. And it wasn't like I click on that and make my algorithm say to show me these things. It's just what was there. And I'm just like, you know what? I fucking hate Instagram because of this. And we all have heard that Instagram kind of perpetuates like exploitation of teens and stuff. So I was like, I'm not really going to support this anymore. And I deleted it from my phone. So I really don't have Instagram, but I still have a handle. So if Instagram has gotten better somehow, let me know and maybe I'll start hanging out on Instagram again. Derek says we had to memorize the preamble to the Constitution. I did too. That I completely forgot about that one, but I'm pretty sure I could still recite most of the preamble of the Constitution if I was thinking about it right now. But I'm not going to do it for you because I'll probably butcher it. Derek, if you can, you want to come sometime, maybe we'll release that as a bonus episode of Derek Ambrose reciting the preamble of the Constitution. Check out our website, which can be found at www.breakthebellpod.com. You can get access to some of our kick-ass merchandise, such as the I Won't Eat Your Bug shirt. We fought wars to not have to eat bugs. So the We Are Not Your Pawn shirt, some merchandise logo, or some brand logo on t-shirts and cups and stuff. Man, I'm gonna really have a hard time doing this. Usually I spend the time that Bill is talking trying to collect my thoughts in my head, but I have to collect them as I'm speaking, which is rather difficult to do. So you have to bear with me flying solo on this, which doesn't happen for a reason. It very rarely happens, and there's a good reason for that, because it's not that good. So you get to put up with me for this 4th of July special, I guess we're calling it. I'm going to get right into this intro video, and I'm just going to kick this thing off. Like I said, this is going to be shorter and sweeter because I have other things I want to do leading up to the 4th of July, and you probably don't want to sit here and listen to me drone on for 2 freaking plus hours. So I'm going to get into this intro video, and when I come back, let's talk about the 4th of July. I'll be right back.
What did you say?
You talking to me?
What the heck are you talking about?
What did you say?
What did you say?
What did you say?
Are you talking to me?
Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me?
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
What are you saying?
What did you say?
Are you talking to me?
Well, maybe he was talking to me.
What'd you say?
Talk to me.
What in heaven's name are you talking about?
Talk to me, baby.
What did you just say?
What did you say?
You talking to me? Are you talking to me?
Are you talking to me?
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
Beautiful music there. Beautiful ancient recording of the national anthem. I mean, we all know, we all recognize it, hopefully by now. I mean, it is contested over whether we should have a new national anthem, whether we should have 2 national anthems, which I guess to each their own, whatever your opinion is. Just thought I'd play that just to get into the Independence Day spirit. You don't really hear people calling it the Independence Day spirit. You hear like Christmas spirit and Halloween spirit, but never like 4th of July spirit. I guess that's called patriotism, which is like a negative thing these days. If you say you're a patriot, then you're a terrorist, obviously. Derek is just messaging random messages, so I'm going to read them. He's like texting to the wrong people. He happens to be texting to this show when he's supposed to be messaging somebody else. He said, waves, maybe. Definitely waves, Derek. Definitely waves. But then he said to disregard because he didn't mean to message that to me, but I didn't disregard it because this is my show. You're messaging my show. You're interrupting me with your misappropriated texts. So I'm going to read them, and I'm going to regard them because it's my show. What are you all doing for? I'm not done with music. That music just didn't put me in the mood. So let's get a little more music going. What do you all do on the 4th of July? Like, what is your tradition? Like, it's typically a day where most people, I would say, probably grill out like burgers or hot dogs, something American. It's not usually, I don't really hear of like steaks on the 4th of July or like, I don't know. Usually it's like super American, like simple burgers or hot dogs and chips and I don't know, watermelon or something like that. Usually, obviously, we got to drink beer. I mean, this is America. We drink beer on the 4th of July. Probably go swimming in a pool if you have access to a pool. Most people either A, watch fireworks. They go sit in grass and watch things go boom in the sky that are lots of colors, or you blow your fingers off lighting your own fireworks, which is much more entertaining. And I am not in any way saying anything negative about that because I would much rather be risking my own fingers versus sitting and watching somebody else risk their fingers. So what do you guys do? Derek, you seem to be the only one participating in this conversation. What do you do on the 4th of July? Let me know, and I will read it. text it to somebody else, or try to text to somebody else, and I will read it for you. So we're celebrating what exactly? Independence Day. Our split from the tyrannical King George. It was George, right? That's what I got written down, so I'm saying King George. Split from awful atrocities such as, look at this. I mean, as we're eating American burgers, this is the shit that the British are eating. I saw this pop up a couple days ago. It says, I don't think there's any denying that a medium rare steak boiled the UK way is 100 Flavor Town. You could be eating this shit if we didn't fight a war. We lost so many good soldiers, so you didn't have to eat boiled rare steak tomorrow. Is there any British food that has any sort of flavor? Isn't like the most disgusting thing that you've ever seen? Anytime I see like a person from the UK posting their like Instagram foodie shots, it always makes me want to vomit. Derek says, no more fucking hot dogs or chips. I'm still 2 weeks out from serving 800 of them in 4 hours. Going to be watching fireworks and helping kids with 4-H fair projects. Nothing like waiting till the last minute. I mean, it's what I do. It works out usually in my favor to wait to the last minute. Derek, if you don't want to eat more fucking hot dogs and chips, you could be eating this medium rare boiled steak the UK way. I mean, maybe that tickles your fancy a little bit more. I don't know. Looks fucking disgusting though. So this whole, we kind of know this whole story. Again, like I said, from 7th grade, probably 5th grade, probably earlier, the whole American Revolution, Declaration of Independence, breaking free from the tyranny and the disgusting food. The story goes usually something like this, or at least from our memory. This is kind of how we remember the story. Great Britain or England or whatever we call it kept imposing, like raising taxes, kept putting taxes on the tea, putting taxes like the Stamp Act. They're just taxing and taxing and taxing. And we're like, we don't want that shit anymore. We're tired of your taxation. We threw the tea in the Boston Harbor, the Boston Tea Party. We all remember that. There was the Boston Massacre where people got fucking shot and killed. The shot heard around the world. And then Declaration of Independence. You can't forget about the Declaration of Independence. You got your founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, you know, all the main characters. And then eventually there's freaking war. Why is my battery dying? I have this thing plugged in. No, I don't have this plugged in. Hang on. I'm back. I went to plug shit in and things just like stopped. I plugged the wrong shit in. That's why. Audio is good. Good. So I'm here. Like I said, trying to do things flying solo. So things started, my computer wasn't plugged in and I went to plug it in, then I plugged in the wrong thing and then I lost everything and it was a tragedy. So I'm just going to get into this kind of basic for kids edition of the American Revolution because we got to have a refresher course here. This is from Ducksters.com. It is like a child's version of the revolutionary story as we know it. Let me get this pulled up. God, everything is going so dumb. American Revolution. The American Revolution was a time when the British colonists in America rebelled against the rule of Great Britain. There were many battles fought, and the colonies gained their freedom and became the independent country of the United States. The American Revolutionary War lasted from 1775 until 1783. Before the American Revolution, there were several British colonies in the Americas. Not all of them participated in the Revolution. Well, I think it stands to reason that if they didn't participate, they shouldn't be able to participate in um, all the freedoms that we all got to enjoy afterwards. All the freedoms from the abomination of boiled steak. They're just sitting back and like, I don't know how this is gonna go. I don't give a fuck. I'm not gonna help you fight, but either way, if you win, we get to participate. If we lose, then we'll just keep being part of Great Britain. That's fine. I didn't realize not all the colonies participated. I thought we all just got together and we're like, you know what? This shit sucks. Let's form our own things. But some people were like, nah, not so much. Derek says participation trophy by proxy. Yeah, that's pretty much. It says 13 colonies ended up rebelling. They were Delaware, Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Georgia, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, New Hampshire, New York, and Rhode Island. Now, in all fairness, only 13 stars got put on that flag. So I don't know. Again, I don't know which colonies didn't participate, but only 13 stars made it on that first flag. So it was like a big kind of fuck you to all the others that didn't participate. So I don't know how long it took for them to decide, you know what, we're going to put more than 13 stars. We're going to add you guys in. But for a while there, it was like, yeah, you weren't part of this, so you don't get a fucking star. Representation. Now, this is a big thing I'm going to talk about because this is something, I mean, we hear about the taxes being the issue, but we don't really talk too much about the representation part being the issue. One of the main reasons the colonists rebelled against Great Britain is that they felt they were not represented in the British government. The British government was making new laws and taxes on the colonies, but the colonies had no say. They wanted to have some say in the British government if they were going to pay high taxes and live by British law. War. War did not happen right away. First, there were protests and arguments, then some small skirmishes between the colonists and local British army. Things just got worse and worse over the course of the years until the colonies in Great Britain were at war. So it just like gradually boiled over to war, it sounds like. Each colony, so this is independence, each colony had its own local government. In 1774, they each elected officials to represent them at the First Continental Congress. This was the first effort of the colonies to unite and make a single government. In 1776, the Second Continental Congress declared independence of the United States from Great Britain. New government. The new government of the United States was different than the government of the colonists' homeland, Great Britain. They decided they didn't want to be ruled by a king anymore. They wanted a government that was ruled by the people. The new government would be a democratic government with leaders elected by the people and a balance of power to make sure no one could become king. Couple interesting facts, I guess. We'll read this part. The first shot fired in the American Revolution was April 19th, 1775, and is called the shot heard round the world. Number 2, John Adams was the defense attorney for the British soldiers involved in the Boston Massacre. He would later become a great leader in the Revolution and the second president of the United States. That seems weird to me. He defended the British soldiers that were involved in the Boston Massacre, which was one of the events that led up to the war in the first place. And then he ends up becoming one of the founding fathers, supposedly, of the United States after he defended the people on the other side. So I'm not sure how that freaking works out, but that's interesting. George Washington, the original GW, the first president, only attended school until he was 14. He became commander of the Virginia militia when he was just 23 years old. Although the war was between the colonies and Great Britain, other countries got involved as well. The French were a major ally to the colonies, and there were French, German, and Spanish soldiers who fought in the war. So that's all you need to know. Just that like short little 6-paragraph thing about the Revolutionary War. It's pretty basic. Very long story short. But the key thing, like I was saying, is that taxation without representation part. And they kind of gloss over that. They're like, you know what? The colonists felt they were not represented in the British government. And they wanted to have some say in the British government. It doesn't say anything about taxes. It just says they wanted some say in the British government. Now, the biggest thing here, and we hear this all the time, taxes. The taxes were too high. The Boston Tea Party was over taxes. We fought a war over taxes. And what's interesting to me is looking at the tax rates then versus today. The tax rate, the overall tax rate for everything that the colonists were being taxed was approximately 1.4% of the money that each person had or made or whatever. I don't know if I don't think it wasn't like income tax, but it was like tax on everything. They paid 1.4% was their tax rate. Today's income tax. I got this pulled up. It's bankrate.com. It gives us kind of a look at the income tax today. Let me scroll down. So here's the tax brackets here for the April 2023 tax season. If you make $0 to $10,000, your income tax, this is just income tax, mind you, not all the other taxes. If you make $0 to $10,275 as a single individual, your tax rate is 10%. The lowest tax bracket is 10% compared to 1.4% back in 1774 when we're like, fuck all these taxes. We're going to start a war. We're going to break away from this shit. 1.4 versus 10%. 10,000 something dollars up to $41,000 is 12%. On down, if you make, this is probably higher than median, I would say, 89,000 to 170,000, you're in the 24% tax bracket. If you make $539,901 or more, that's really specific. $539,901 or higher, your tax bracket, your tax rate is 37 fucking percent. Over a third of what you make is taxable income. Derek also says, how many politicians do we have to 1776 to get back to 2% tax? None. I mean, I would love to get down to like the 10% tax bracket. I guess maybe if I'm only making $0 to $10,000, I guess I could enjoy that luxury. But 37 fucking percent for people that make $500,000 or more. That is insanity. I mean, you want to compare? We fought a fucking war for 1.4%. We're sitting at 37%, and some people think that's not freaking high enough. Like billionaires should be paying like 50% of their taxes to offset their billions. 50%, like half of what you make. I mean, I would take a pay cut of $1 to get back down to that, at least the 35%. If I made $539,901, I would go down to that $539,900. I'd just be like, I'm giving up $1 pay cut just to get down 2%. And this whole curve thing is kind of retarded too, because like 2% for an extra dollar. I don't understand the people that are like, well, obviously the billionaire or like the people that make 500,000 or more should be paying more of the tax. They should be giving. They should be carrying more of that burden than people that make $0 to $10,000. That's why we have this tax curve, this tax bracket. Do you understand that a flat percent tax would do exactly that? Let's say everybody paid a flat tax of 10%. The billionaire's still going to pay more dollars than the person that makes $10,000. That's just how math works. That's how basic math works. Flat tax just seems to make more fucking sense. I don't know. I'm not going to go off on that train, but we can see here, like we always talk. I've even heard people say, the wars were fought over taxes. Look at the taxes. The wars weren't fought. The Revolutionary War wasn't fought over high taxes. Clearly, because the colonists were paying next to nothing. Before the taxes went up, the colonists were basically not taxed at all. I mean, Britain even came and fought fucking wars here a few years before, like what we used to call the French and Indian War. I don't know if we can still call it that, the 7-year war, whatever we're calling it these days. And then that's when Great Britain got into all these wars, all of a sudden, they were like, you know what? We fought a war for you. We're going to start taxing you. And then the colonists were like, fuck that. We don't have anybody in like our own representation in the government. So why would we pay taxes on things that we have zero say in? The whole taxation without representation mantra. And it makes sense. It's like, if you have no say and what your government does or spends your money on, why would you want to give them your money? It's like, I have no control over where this money is going. I'm not going to give it to you. Sounds kind of, I feel like we can apply that to today. I feel like we may be living in a time of taxation without representation. Not sure. I mean, I'm not like some political scientist or anything like that, like poli-sci major or anything like that. So I'm just saying, from my perspective, I feel like we're living in an era, and we probably have for 100 years now, in an era of taxation without representation. And I'll get into that here in a little bit. But I want to read this article here. This is actually from taxfoundation.org. And it talks a little bit about taxation without representation. It's titled Taxation, Representation, and the American Revolution. It says, in his day, James Otis was a prominent lawyer, legislator, and patriot, but today his name is all but forgotten. But when all else fades from memory, words enduring, his rallying cry of taxation without representation is tyranny becomes the watchwords of the American Revolution and remain familiar to our ears. American independence, which we celebrate this week, was born of a tax revolt. That revolt had little to do with the tax rate. So when we see this 1.4% versus the 37%, has nothing to do, little to nothing, probably nothing at all to do with the tax rate. Oppressive levels of taxation have fomented other rebellions, but not this one. The truth is, colonists paid very little in taxes, directly or indirectly. Tax burdens in the colonies were incredibly light, far lighter than in England, and woefully insufficient to cover the cost of colonial administration. Nor did the luminaries of the American Revolution operate under the misapprehension that taxes would go down if they won their independence. So that's saying our founding fathers didn't have this disillusion that, hey, if we go fight this war, we gain our independence, taxes go bye-bye, or at least we'll go down. No, they were like, actually, taxes are probably going to fucking go up because England's not going to like us anymore. They're probably going to tariff the shit out of things. We're going to have our own taxes that we got to impose. They probably just wanted to make the money themselves. Our founding fathers, like, that tax money could be coming to us rather than somebody else. And we could get rich instead of the King of England. Not saying that's what they said, but looking at government today, If government back then, like politicians back then, were the same as politicians today, that would be more likely the scenario. Set aside for a moment the financing of a long and destructive war. A new nation would receive no subsidies from the mother country. It would likely face even more punitive tariff regime than the restrictions under which the colonies already operated. It would have to fund its own administration, and it would have to take up costs of national defense. Even under the shaky framework of the Articles of Confederation, it was clear from the start that victory in this tax revolt meant paying more in taxes, not less. So why did they do it? Because for champions of American independence, the problem was not that taxes were high, but that they were arbitrary, occasionally capricious and punitive, and most importantly, adopted without the consent of the governed. Taxation and consent have long been entwined, even under relatively unrepresented governments. There are many things that governments can do against the wishes of the people, but taxation is too large of an undertaking to be accomplished without at least tacit consent. Throughout history, tax compliance has been the exception rather than the rule. Champions of liberty, moreover, have recognized their power to resist taxation as a vital bargaining chip in securing other liberties. That's really important there. Throughout, like our existence, before our existence as a country, people understood that taxation was a bargaining chip to get what they wanted. It's kind of like the labor unions. They do their bargaining. If they don't get what they want, they just go on strike. And for the most part, if enough of them go on strike, the union or the companies need the workers, and so we can we can work more. That's their bargaining chip, is just stop fucking working. And in this situation, our the taxpayers' bargaining chip is the money that we give, that we provide for the government. It's not really in our heads anymore. Like, what happened to our use of this bargaining chip? What happened to, you know what? We don't like what you're doing. We're not going to fucking pay our taxes. And if enough of us did it, I mean, shit would get done. I mean, if a couple of us are just like, taxation is theft, we're not going to pay our taxes, nothing's going to get done. But collectively, taxation is a vital bargaining chip. We don't really think that way today, but the government knows it. The government knows that taxation is a vital bargaining chip. Do you remember this article from last year? I think we talked about it. The IRS hired armed agents last year willing to use deadly force and surveillance in all 50 states. You remember this one? We're like, why the fuck does the IRS need armed agents? Well, because the IRS and the government know that taxation is a vital bargaining chip. If people got smart, if people got like savvy and they actually started to fucking work together, they could just, instead of like forming some sort of freaking domestic terrorist cell or something like that, we could all just get together and just be like, you know what, we're going to take down the fucking government. And they're like, what are we going to do? Obviously the FBI agents infiltrated in our little group. They're like, are you going to go kidnap the governor? No, we're not going to do that. It's fucking stupid. I got a little baby spider. Are you going to go like blow up a federal building? No, that'd be fucking stupid. So what are you guys going to do? We're just going to not pay our taxes. That's it. The government could shut down. You could change the direction that your government moves just by us all collectively saying, I'm not going to fucking pay my taxes. The greatest part of it is they hired 350 plus jobs. Armed IRS agents. If say 1,000 of us, it's going to take more than 1,000 of us. 1,000 of us decided I'm not going to pay my taxes. It's not a whole lot 350 armed IRS agents is going to do. Instead, they got us arguing about and looking for domestic terrorism. They got us arguing about like which bathroom we're supposed to be using. They got us arguing. And if we all just collectively said, I don't like the way this is going, I'm not paying for your services anymore. Government shuts down. I mean, just like union workers going on strike, it shuts down. It just fucking shuts down. I mean, it's got to be as rigid as a union worker strike, though. Like, we got to shame the people that are still paying the taxes when we decide to collectively do this. Be like, no, you're crossing that picket line by paying your taxes. Fuck them all. I mean, it's like when Bud Light decided to put that Mulvaney person on their freaking advertising, and everybody's like, we don't like the direction you're going with this, putting that tranny on your beer. We're not going to drink your beer no more. And what happened? Enough people didn't drink the beer, and things start like they come out, make public statements. And they're like, no, that wasn't good enough. We're still not going to drink. Lots of money lost. Probably going to change the direction. If not, probably going to change the direction that some of these corporations decide to take. Because there's power in your money, because they don't exist without your money. Just like the government, you want to make a difference. Yeah, you can vote all fucking day long. Probably going to make little to no difference at this point. But if we all stop paying our fucking taxes, guess what? We're not sending to Ukraine anymore. Guess what? We're not paying for gender studies in freaking Lithuania or wherever. You don't like paying for the college forgiveness plan. The college tuition forgiveness plan. You don't like that? Everybody just stop paying your fucking taxes, and it doesn't happen. I'm probably going to get an IRS agent knocking on my door for advocating that we all just collectively stop fucking paying our taxes. But our founding fathers knew that resisting taxation was a vital bargaining chip to securing our liberties, it says. Back to this article that I was on. It says the withholding of revenues forced King John to parley with his nobles at Runnymede, yielding Magna Carta. The fight over ship money, originally a requirement that coastal cities build and provision ships during the time of war, ultimately morphing into a requirement that all communities contribute funds even in peacetime, helped predicate the English Civil War. And the need to impose taxes helped the English Parliament secure its own power. Taxes are what brought power to Parliament, because this explains this, but I'm just going to give it in my own words. The king, there was the king, and then there was Parliament, and the Parliament was kind of government, and then the king was kind of like the fucking king. Well, the king was like, didn't really give two shits about Parliament. If he didn't like what the laws that they made, he'd just have them arrested. However, the one thing that the king couldn't do was make himself rich. He couldn't impose, like, he couldn't get money from the people himself. Parliament had to pass tax laws. So Parliament would make these kind of deals with the king and be like, you give us a little more power, we'll get you a little more taxes, so you keep getting fucking rich and we keep getting more powerful. It was kind of it's kind of like how shit goes today. It's like, like lobbyists. We'll give you the power you want if you just get us the money that our company or our corporation or whatever we're lobbying for. If you pass laws that make us richer, we'll give you more power than you could possibly think of. That's how it kind of, like, the taxes and the Parliament and the king kind of worked out in England to begin with. It's like Parliament wasn't that big, but they're like, we'll scratch your back, you scratch ours. We'll get you the tax money if you let us have a little more control, a little more power, a little more of the piece of the pie. It says, Parliament after Parliament traded its agreement to taxes for increased power over the prerogative of government. Colonists knew their English history. James Otis wasn't entirely original. The earliest attested precursor to taxation without representation as tyranny came out of the ship money disputes that I read about a few minutes ago. Says there can be little doubt that taxes hold pride of place in the cause of the American Revolution. Colonists protest the Stamp Act and the Navigation Acts. They rechristened one set of Parliament enactments the Intolerable Acts, which left little room for interpretation. They boycotted dutiable goods led by troublemakers like Samuel Adams and John Hancock. They turned to smuggling to evade tariffs, and of course, they brewed their tea in the Boston Harbor. Clearly, the colonists did not care for British taxes, but mainly they did not care for the fact that they weren't consulted about them. Let's see. There's one part that I wanted to read most. I think it's towards the bottom. Let's see. It says the colonies could elect their own members of parliament, perhaps. Oh, so these are some solutions. It says, to the colonists, though, these were sops. Neither gave them meaningful say over their own taxation. Taxation without representation was still tyranny, be those taxes ever so low. Whatever else taxation should be, it had to be by the consent. The idea, at once steeped in British history and radically revolutionary, remains an animating principle not only in taxation but for the whole American experiment. That's something worth celebrating this Independence Day. One thing it mentions, and I don't want to read that deep into it, but it says the power of the purse belongs to the people. So I want to talk just a little bit about taxation without representation. There we go. Derek says the IRS is the mafia. Sure, would be a shame if something happened if you didn't pay your taxes. True story. So we fought this war. We fought against taxation without representation. So that means now we obviously have taxation with representation. That makes sense, right? We have a representative democracy where we vote these politicians in, and then they go up to Washington and they enact policies, or they work on policies for us. That's how it works, right? What about when you get $4.1 billion in lobbying just last year? What does that do to taxation with representation? Like, how many promises are made and dollars passed and handshake deals made for this $4.1 billion in lobbying? How much of your opinion do you feel is being heard by your representatives when $4.1 billion is being waved around in D.C. in just lobbying alone? Like, who's actually represented when these laws are enacted? Is it you? Like if you went to your congressman and was like, you know what, you should really try to get this thing passed because it affects all the people of our community here and the community that you represent in the state of whatever, like here in Iowa. I send my right to my congressman and I say, hey, Mr. Congressman, I think, like, I've talked to everybody in our community here that you represent, and we feel like this would be best. Could you try to push this? Or do you think it's like the big pharma lobbyist or the big food lobbyist knocking on the doors like, hey, we got $4.1 billion. You should pass this law. That kind of benefits us, will benefit you. Waving money around. Yes, I know supposedly the lobbyists don't pay the politicians, but there's money going around there. If not money, the promises made, like the revolving door of, you pass this law and we got this great job for you at Halliburton, or this great job for you at freaking Monsanto or something like that. When your term is up, we'll make you CEO of this corporation. And it's just this fucking revolving. And then you're going to make billions of dollars for sure. Like, who voted? Like, which one of you voted to send the billions of dollars to Ukraine, or consented to send billions of dollars to Ukraine? I mean, that's just like off the top of my head example of where your money is going. Like, I know, for fuck's sake, I had no consent to sending billions of dollars to. Well, we vote for our representatives, and they make the policies to send the billions of dollars to Ukraine. But that was like, when you're making policies, that wasn't on your political platform, your political agenda. It's like, we're gonna send billions of dollars to Ukraine. Vote for me. No, that wasn't like, how many laws, like 1,000-page laws, go through that your representative doesn't even read, but they get some kind of handshake deal. It's like, you push this thing through, we're going to make this one easy for you. Your representation, your consent for that law to be passed through, that your representative never even freaking probably cracked the binding on. And they never at least read the fine print in those thousands of pages of freaking bills that are being pushed through. Like, taxation with representation. What about, like, Illinois? Here, let's pull this up. Here is an image of, like, red versus blue in Illinois. Illinois is predominantly a blue state because of all the, like, millions of people up in the Chicago areas. But predominantly, it would appear that the majority of Illinois is actually red. But the representation is going to be more predominantly blue. All the taxes that get passed are going to be more Democrat. I don't give a shit. They're both freaking retarded. So I don't care if it's red or blue. I'm just saying, the majority of Illinois is ran by a small little chunk of Illinois. And it's the same in, like, California, New York. If you look at their red versus blue maps, it's just like, we know California is a Democrat state. We know Illinois is a Democrat state. We know New York's a Democrat state. But geographically, probably 90% of all those states, well, maybe not California, but New York and Illinois, probably 80% at least, is red geographically. And laws are being passed that I would think, based on how this is split up, would be considered taxation without representation. And maybe, like I said, maybe I just am not a political scientist where I know what any of the shit even means. But, I mean, I don't even, like, this is freaking so far from taxation of the consented or representation of the consented, because I think if you took a poll, whether Democrat or Republican or Libertarian or whoever, of who agrees with 100% of the direction that the U.S. government is going today, I guarantee you probably 90% of them say, but you voted for them or you didn't vote for them, and this is a representative to democracy, and this, if you don't like it, just vote them out. If you don't like it, just vote for the next guy the next time. Better luck next time, guys. Just go vote, get out and vote. Stop paying your damn taxes. Quickest way to solve a problem. Derek says 4.1 billion split between all the House and Senate. That's still a nice chunk of change. It's true. Now, do you think our founding fathers? That's a good point. I don't know how many people are in Congress, but I mean, I can do the math. I just don't want to right now. But not only just the members of Congress, but also their aides and their staff and their staff and the Supreme Court justices and their staff and their aides, and then the president and all the people that work in all the freaking agencies and all the freaking committees and subcommittees. Do you think our founding fathers had that in mind of paying that big freaking bill? I want to see. Let's see. How many employees, executive branch? Just the executive branch. We'll go with that. Oh, well, the armed forces are considered. So the executive branch employs more than 4 million Americans. Interesting. I don't know. It's a lot of fucking people. A lot of people that you are paying for that are making laws that I didn't consent to, that are passing bills that I didn't consent to. Taxation without representation. Everyone basically says everyone who is taxed gets to vote. I mean, that's taxation with representation is everyone who gets taxed gets a vote, or everyone who votes get taxed. Kind of flipping it around, but if everyone who's taxed gets a vote, then everyone who votes gets taxed. It should make sense. What about felons? What about federal, like people who have served federal time or jail time for being a felon? I know some states say if you're a felon, you can never fucking vote again. But do those same states say if you're a felon, you can never be taxed again? Because if this is taxation with representation, then if you're not allowed to vote, you shouldn't be required to pay taxes. This one is a little this one will ruffle some feathers. What about immigrants? Immigrants who cannot, like illegal immigrants who cannot vote but still are required to pay taxes. I mean, again, that one's going to ruffle some feathers because a lot of them are paid under the table, but they're still paying sales tax. They're still paying gas tax and somehow paying property taxes. I'm sure if they own a house, I don't know. They're still paying some taxes. Should they be allowed to vote if they're paying taxes, or if they're not allowed to vote, being illegal aliens, should they not have to pay taxes? I mean, you get the hard right saying, well, all these immigrants should be paying their fair share. Well, then should they be also allowed to vote? I mean, again, it's kind of a dicey area, but I don't know. If we're going with taxation with representation, it just would stand to reason that everyone who gets taxed gets to vote. What about the other way around? What about everyone who votes gets taxed? And we hear on the left, let's fight both sides. On the left, they're like, well, I don't know, Elon Musk or Donald Trump didn't pay a dime. Elon Musk didn't pay a dime in income tax because he's a billionaire and he doesn't have to pay income tax. I guarantee you Elon Musk paid far more taxes than you will ever even be able to comprehend in your brain what that much amount of money looks like. Maybe not through income tax, but through payroll tax, through freaking property tax, all this other shit. He's paid a lot of taxes. But what about those on like social programs? Like on welfare. I'll just throw it out there. What about people that get welfare checks and that is their sole source of income? They're not getting taxed on that income. They're not paying income taxes on that. Should they be allowed to vote? Should they be allowed to vote on social programs specifically. I mean, it's a dicey area. If you're saying people who are taxed get the right to vote, well, what about people that don't pay taxes? Should they not have the right to vote? Derek says, direct democracy, we'd all get a vote, but then the cities would rule everything. Yes, unfortunately, that's how it would work. Somebody please tell me how we have taxation without representation, or with taxation with representation. How do we have this? How is the United States still considered taxation with representation? Because there's a lot of stuff that I don't consent to, specifically paying taxes. But there's a lot of bills out there. Like I could come to terms with certain taxes. Like the whole taxation is theft mantra is ideal. I would prefer to pay no taxes. I think our government is a bunch of fucking crooks and we should not be paying them a goddamn dime. But you can say, well, that doesn't work. What about the roads and shit? Well, fine. Let's have, like I said before, a flat tax system where but the thing is, we all have to consent. We all have to collectively get together. We all have to see what we are paying for, not these 1,000-page bills where we're slipping in, well, let's pay for the fine arts, or let's pay for this thing that people don't fucking care about, but we need to subsidize it. And if we don't subsidize it, it's going to fail because people don't fucking care about it. No, I want to see everything that I'm paying for. And then when we see, like, we get to vote what we feel is important enough to pay for. And then after we vote on what we should be paying for, we get to see transparently how much that all costs. And so then we'll collectively come up with a flat tax rate that's going to cover all those costs. I mean, it makes the most sense. It's like, you know what? I want this covered, I want this covered, and I want this covered. I don't need that. I don't need that social program. We don't need to pay for those studies or this. But we do need this, and this. What's that all come to? Well, it comes to this many billions of dollars. Okay, well then we divide that up. We take the total that everybody makes in this country, and we come up with whatever percentage that is, and it's a flat tax percentage. It makes the most sense. It's like, well, you want this stuff, you got to pay for it. No, I mean, that's kind of unrealistic. Obviously, we still would, like Derek was saying, we still have the cities ruling the show. We still have, I mean, we're a fucking 50-50 nation where one side of the country is like, no, we don't want this. We don't want this. That's evil. That's Nazism. And over here, it's like, no, we don't want this. We don't want that. That's evil. That's communism. Obviously, it's unrealistic, but it makes the most sense. But it's still unrealistic because we still would have half the country feeling that they're underrepresented. So what do we do? Split it up on a state-by-state basis? Dividing up, like, get rid of the big giant conglomerate federal government? I mean, ideally, yes. Maybe just have somebody there that's like, y'all just get along, and just do it the way it was intended on a state-by-state, like back to state or local governments. Your state, like California, decides that they want to pay for this, and that, and this, but Iowa over here is like, I don't need that shit. Your state, your problem. You pay for it. You got a bunch more fucking homeless people over there. That's your problem. You pay for it. Now, you'd have some states. I mean, all this does is inevitably lead to states fighting states, and we get back to exactly where we are, probably where people are discoursing over freaking freaking civil divorce, whatever they're talking about. National divorce. Like, you don't like where this country is going? Yeah, stop paying. Well, then people are going to get pissed, and national divorce just seems like the only solution sometimes. And even in this whole ideal situation, national divorce would probably ensue. Now, the problem is, so many people I see on social media calling for national divorce. So many people, and I'm all about it. Like, we can't get along, just split and go our happy ways. Hang on, Derek. I'm missing Derek's freaking comments. Derek says, I thought about running as a write-in this year for Missouri House of Representatives simply because the one running didn't have anyone running against him. And in 4 years, he hasn't done shit. I mean, you don't have to do shit if nobody's going to challenge you on it. Vote down everything that increases taxes, propose stupid bills just to show everyone how idiotic some of the current bills are. He also says he gets to Iowa every chance just to not pay taxes on food and to take nickel cans, which I may or may not have paid the deposit on. I remember those days when I lived in Illinois, crossing the border to get the nickel back on the cans. Anyway, where was I going? National divorce. I mean, it sounds like, to some people, it sounds like just, it's like an action movie that's going to have a great ending, and it may have a great ending. It'll probably have a really shitty ending. The problem is, how many of you, like people would be like, oh, I'm going to fight this war. I'm going to split up. I'm going to blah, blah, blah. I fully support. How many of you are actually willing to simply stop paying your taxes, to take that risk? It's like, all of us, before we try this national divorce thing out, why don't we all just stop paying our fucking taxes and see how that works out? I mean, I'm not saying that I'm sitting here not paying my taxes. Obviously, some things you don't have a choice. You go to the store, you're paying sales tax regardless. It's not like you can tell the store, well, yeah, I know that dollar thing is actually $1.07 because of sales tax, but I'm only going to give you $1. Just don't pay the tax, man. That's fine. It's not, I mean, they're not going to give you your freaking sandwich. Now, if you're not willing to not pay your taxes, I'm telling you, you're not willing to fight a civil war or have a national divorce. I'm just telling you that. Derek said it, and that was my next point. They can't put us all in fucking jail. 350 armed IRS agents can't put us all in fucking jail. Especially if you're not paying those IRS agents. If you stop paying the tax man can't pay their 350 IRS agents that are willing to use deadly force. Do you think those 350 tax agents are going to do dick if they're not getting paid for it? Unless they really crack down and start threatening jail time to the IRS. I don't know, but for the most part, they can't throw us all in jail. I mean, you stop paying taxes, you stop paying the jail systems too. You stop paying taxes, you stop paying you stop paying for the police force that would throw you in jail. I don't know. I mean, maybe something like that, something drastic where you don't even have to use any of your expensive bullets. And I'm not calling for violence. I'm not calling for. You don't even come back at me and say, "Hey, this guy." I'm just vomiting out of my brain. The fact that this nation was not founded on high tax, on the push against high tax. It was founded on the fact that it's like, we don't fucking want you telling us how to spend our money. we don't like. It wasn't even like, you know what, these laws suck. We're not. It was more like, well, we had no say in those laws, so it doesn't matter if I like them or not. I ain't gonna pay your taxes. I'm sure. Obviously, there's a lot more to the American Revolution than that, but the whole taxation without representation just like it should mean so much more today than it even did back then, because we're not represented. Whether you think this is a representative democracy or a freaking republic or whatever they call it, you're not represented. Nobody gives a shit. No politician, no freaking congressman up on Capitol Hill gives a shit about your opinion. It's all about those $4.1 billion in the lobbying. How are we living up to the 4th of July holiday? Like that's a real question. Like, we're so complacent now compared to the revolutionary era. And there's so many people that say that they're patriots or they're revolutionaries, they're ready to fight whatever, they're ready to take up arms, and it's just like, no, you're not. Like, as soon as the shit got a little hard, a little uncomfortable, you'd roll over. At this point, I probably would too. It's easy to eat your hot dog and yell freedom on the 4th of July. But it's a little bit harder to like demand your freedom through your wallets, through whatever. This whole American experiment was about us collectively governing ourselves. It wasn't about like the hundreds of politicians up there getting fat and happy by ruling us over here. It was about us collectively ruling ourselves. And we were given a freaking list of tools to use to collectively rule ourselves, like freedom of speech, like the freedom to protest, like the freedom to own and possess and carry arms. We have the list of tools to collectively ensure that we can govern ourselves. But today, like, we have to get a permit to carry a gun. And you can argue all day, well, the founding fathers didn't, blah, blah, blah. That was a different time, and muskets and blah, blah, blah. They didn't know about freaking AR-15s and M16s and all that shit. They would have had no idea. They didn't mean that. You got to have a permit to carry a gun. Even the Constitution says you can own guns. What about if that one's too much of a gray area for you? What about having to have a permit to protest on public property? Now that one should piss you off even more than having to have a permit to carry arms. Like, you could get arrested for protesting on public land because you didn't ask the government if you could protest on their land, even though it's public land, which makes it actually your land. That's where we are. You think we live in this free country, you gotta ask for permission to protest the things that you don't like. And if the government says, no, you can't protest that because we don't like that, you don't like the things that that you're protesting. Derek says, wonder if the IRS agents would shoot our dogs like the ATF. Most likely. Most likely they would. I got this last article. It's about all I got. What are your thoughts on taxation with representation? On, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm onto something with this whole, hey, let's just stop paying taxes, guys. I mean, we screen taxation as theft. How many of you that quote this taxation is theft mantra. You wear it on your freaking Facebook posts to make sure everybody knows that you're a good obedient libertarian by saying taxation is theft. How many of you have actually not paid your taxes? Just out of curiosity. I know there's some people out there that that refuse to do that shit. They live off grid. They with the sovereign citizen movement, that they don't pay a whole lot of taxes. But for the most part, all you libertarians out there, how many of you have just stopped paying your taxes? I would like to know that. Derek says everyone would roll over, take it up the ass once the government service stopped, and not federal government, but fire, EMS, police. They stop, and normal people will cave as the shelves in the store go empty. No, it's true. Farm animals in Missouri are taxed as property. Derek has 4 goats on property and doesn't pay taxes on them. Okay, well, at least you don't pay taxes on your goats. I mean, that's a start. You got to start somewhere. I want to read this last article because this was interesting to me. This is a 4th of July editorial from 150 years ago, which is really cynical towards like celebrating the 4th of July based on where the country was at the time. And it kind of is reflective of today too, I think. So let me end with this article here, if it'll pull up. Let's see. It says this editorial originally ran in Chicago Tribune 150 years ago on 4th of July, 1873. It provides a glimpse of what the Tribune thought of our patriotic celebration at the time and demonstrates that our nation's concerns and vexation haven't changed very much. Derek says they're not his goats, they're his 13-year-old kids who doesn't get taxed. So this starts out, it says, the day we celebrate has arrived. So again, this was from 1873. So almost 100 years after the Declaration of Independence. So 100 years later, they were reflecting on celebrating the 4th of July, just as I am about 250 years later. The day we celebrate has arrived, and it is therefore incumbent upon each citizen of Chicago, we presume, to manifest the measure of patriotism which he possesses by such demonstrations in his backyard of a star-spangled character as best comport with his dignity and convenience. The occasion, however, which gave birth to the 4th of July is now so remote in national history, and the American people have suffered so many petty tyrannies since the English yoke was broken that the primal meaning of the day has become quite indistinct. The result is that the celebration of the national anniversary has of late years been a very heterogeneous description. There is one class of people who make a fetish of 4th of July and fall down and worship it. We all know those people. The other class declares it a nuisance and runs away from it, if it is possible to run away. If not, it bears the infliction with philosophical composure and rejoices when the last rocket sputters itself away in the clouds and the eagle screams his last scream. The former class is conscientious in its fetish worship, and like a true devotee, is ready to be crushed under the wheels of the national juggernaut, or to sacrifice itself in some other manner. Some men blow off 2 or 3 fingers, or even give up an arm or a leg for the fetish. Small boys would cheerfully fill their faces with gunpowder or sacrifice an eye. Some men will get drunk and fall into the river. Some will get drunk and, in the resultant fights, sacrifice themselves by cold lead or steel. Some will cheerfully contribute a smashed buggy, a wrecked horse, and 2 or 3 broken ribs. Others will set fire to their houses or stores and manifest their devotion by a general illumination. Others will fill themselves to repletion with green peas, cucumbers, and mint juleps and have cholera morbus. The other class of people has already flown from the torture of 4th of July to remote green pastures, far off seacoasts, and distant, obscure hamlets where the eagle never soars, and the Star-Spangled Banner, if it waves at all, waves in a becoming manner, where the 4th of July orator is as yet unknown, and small girls in white have something else to do besides run around in chariots and making themselves sick with ice cream and lemonade. The 4th of July will have plenty of celebrators or celebrators. I don't know. He's speaking in weird old English. There is no doubt of that. There will be plenty of noise. There's no doubt of that also. There will be plenty of accidents, casualties, fines, haps, and mishaps also. There's no doubt about that either. But still, the question recurs. What are we making the fuss about? If we must blow our legs off, burn up our houses and fire rockets through our neighbors' vitals and get patriotically drunk and keep the everlasting birds screaming, why not have some motive for it? Why not have some method in our madness? For nearly 100 years, we have been celebrating a Declaration of Independence from British power and hailing Columbia's heroes of the heaven-born band who fought and bled in freedom's sacred cause. And also those American tars who doused the royal ensign so handy-o, why not, for the sake of variety, at least have a change in the program? There is no immediate danger of British tyranny at present, nor is it probable that we shall ever again have to pay taxes to Her Most Gracious Majesty. Why then fire the American heart and the Chinese cracker every July? Why not get up a new Declaration of Independence? The farmers have already got tired of patriotic business when there is nothing to be patriotic about and shooting squibs at the foreign tyrant who exists no longer, and have got up a 4th of July of their own with a brand new Declaration of Independence. Why should not the whole American people go do likewise? There's just as good cause for Declaration of Independence now as there was 100 years ago. The evils which King George and his minions inflicted upon us were no worse than the evils which are now afflicted upon us in the name of loyalty. Let us declare ourselves free from the corruptions of party, from abuse of power, from the monopolies of huge overgrown corporations, from the dictation of political bummers and scallywags, my favorite word of all time, from the frauds and preculations of carpetbag knaves, from the speculation and swindlings of Indian agents, from defaulting government officials, from credit mobiliers, from back salary grabbers, from the interference with state governments, from rotten insurance companies and collapsing banks, from hot corn and grain gambling, from wheat corners and stock bubbles, from benzene, whiskey, and legislative lobbies, from emotional insane murderers and free love scandal mongers, from filthy alleys and cholera breeding slums, from fanatical Puritans and crazy freethinkers, from this goes on and on and on and on. It says, and in general, from long-winded 4th of July orators, firecrackers, decomposing vegetables, skyrockets, hand organs, high taxes, nitroglycerin in brown paper packages, taxes on pig iron, intolerance, bigotry, stupidity, and other blessings which are vouchsafed to us under the Republican form of government in this year of grace and republicanism, 1873. Surely here are grievances enough for a new Declaration of Independence and material sufficient on which to get up a first-class celebration with guns, anvils, trumpets, bells, and banners. The old 4th of July has become moldy with age. Let us shoot off firecrackers for something new and vital. And if we must sacrifice ourselves to our fetish, do so with the consciousness that we are contributing our legs, arms, and fingers and distressing our insurance companies for something fresher than a centenarian reminiscence. And all this we can do without any sacrifice of patriotism or any diminution of flag, eagle, or firecracker. So there you have it. Pretty much what he was saying about 100 years ago, I'm saying today. It's like, sure, we declared independence from all that shit 250 some odd years ago, but when are we going to declare independence from the swindlers, the scallywags up in the government, the collapsing banks, the insurance companies, the stock bubbles, all these things that he was bitching about 100 years ago, 150 years ago, I'm bitching about today. Like the high taxes, the bigotry, the stupidity, and the taxes on pig iron. I'm still bitching about the tax. I don't know what's pig iron. All I know is this experiment only goes so far. This experiment, like, every year we should be keeping this fucking thing alive. But we're not. We're just complacent, paying the tax man, letting them make the stupid laws that we fucking hate. We will sit here and bitch about it, say, well, we got to vote this guy in, or we got to vote that guy in, or we got none of that matters. I've come to terms with none of that freaking matters until we get the person in there that's going to be like, end all taxes. That's great. That's fucking great. But we also could vote with our pocketbooks and say, let's end all taxes. Just stop. Just stop. I don't know. Maybe we should just declare like tax-free day or something, or tax-free year. Like nobody pays their income tax in 2024. Let's see how long the government holds out. I mean, they've got us brainwashed to think that we have to do this or we will go to jail. I like Derek said 20, 30 minutes ago. Can't throw us all in jail. I don't know. It's just my opinion this 4th of July. But I mean, we got to do something. Like, yes, go eat your hot dogs or your boiled steak or whatever it's going to eat. But in the back of your head or in the front of your head, maybe have these conversations with yourself. Maybe have the uncomfortable conversation with the people that you're celebrating your so-called independence with. Be like, look, what exactly is it we're celebrating? Yes, we did free ourselves from the tyranny of boiled fucking steak. We did it. But maybe it's time we focus forward and realize that we're in a much shittier spot than we were, but 100 or 250 years ago. Whatever, however many. I can't do that freaking math right now. The problem is, those people were willing to do something about it. They were willing to throw the tea in the freaking Boston Harbor. They were willing to like give up all their comforts to make this the thing that was supposed to be us collectively governing ourselves and making the laws that benefit us, not people that are lining their freaking pockets with your hard-earned money. I don't know, some things to think about. That's all I really got. I mean, I can bitch about this all night. It's been not quite, or it's been just over an hour and a half, so it was short, like I said. Let me know what you think. Let me know, like, where this thing moves forward. Does it end in civil divorce or freaking federal divorce? Does it end in, like a freaking civil war? Does it end with us just not paying and seeing where it goes from there? Because that would get really, I mean, that they will not go out without kicking and screaming. So it will get ugly, but it's got to start somewhere. Tell me what you think. You can find me all over social media, like I said, at the handle at Break the Bell Pod. Come hang out on Twitter. That's where I like to hang out. I haven't, because it's summertime and I do things besides just like stare at digital screens. I haven't been as active on Twitter, but I will get back into it here very soon. We also have a Facebook forum, which is called the Breaking the Bell Forum, which is where you can come hang out without your friends and family knowing that you're as batshit crazy as I am, because it is a closed forum. Everybody is welcome as long as you're a person and as long as you're not a total dickhead. So come join that. Like I said, our handles all across social media is at Break the Bell Pod. Share this shit far and wide because more people need to hear stuff. More people need to know that we collectively disagree with what's happening. And the more people that know it, the more we can like kind of band together and come up with freaking ideas. So share this shit far and wide because I love you for it. Have a great 4th of July. definitely, I know I ragged on eating the hot dogs and shit. I'm going to be eating hot dogs and chips and stuff too, and probably blowing off my fingers with fireworks. So I am going to be doing that stuff, but I don't know. Just kind of think about the shit at least once tomorrow. Think about this stuff that I talked about and what the Declaration of Independence, what the American Revolution, what that all actually stood for. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy your 4th of July. I will catch you next time. Goodbye.
The Break the Bell podcast is brought to you by you. So pat yourself on the back because without you, we would be talking to ourselves. A special thanks to our Patreon members, Justin Zielinski, Remzo Martinez, Stephanie Parker, and T.O. Jacobson. A shout out to our sponsors, Run Your Mouth Coffee, the On the Run podcast, and Goulash Media. If you'd like to help support us, visit patreon.com/breakthebell or buy our garbage at breakthebell.bigcartel.com. Get back here next week and let us continue to invade your ear holes. And as always, never stop talking.